All right, please rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the Hubbard County Board of Commissioners Board meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. We have the agenda in front of us. Is there any additions or corrections?
No.
Hearing none, is there a motion to move forward?
I'll move.
Char moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tom seconds. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public input. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address the board? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Consent agenda. Is there a motion or any changes to it?
This Ted will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ted.
I'll second.
Dave seconds. All right, thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. County employee recognition. Mike.
Good morning. As far as county employee recognition today in Human Services, we have Mark Biesner, transit driver, began the part-time position on November 3rd. And in solid waste, Mike Dene, solid waste operator, began the part-time position on October 27th.
Okay, thank you. And welcome. North Memorial Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're here to give the third quarter report for the Park Rapids ambulance, and I have Scott Johnson is the district chief with me, and Mike Zimmer is the captain or supervisor. As far as staffing goes, as you might recall, we have one crew that's on 24/7, and then a second crew that's on 1P to 1A, and that second crew is on 7 days a week now. As far as the volumes year-to-date through the third quarter are concerned, we transported 1,285 patients, and in 2024, we transported 1,250 patients. As far as our part-time ALS license is concerned and the number of times that we have a paramedic on a crew versus the number of times that we have 2 EMTs on a crew, that's remained constant throughout the year at 83% of the crews, or 83% of the time there's a paramedic on the crew, and there's 2 EMTs together on a crew. As far as the response times are concerned, for the third quarter, you can see our compliance with our response times in less than 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and 30 minutes. And during the third quarter, the compliance was down a little bit, but I listed the number of runs that we did in the third quarter of 2025 compared to the third quarter of 2024, and we did 39 more runs during that third quarter this year than we did last year, and that has an impact on response times the busier we get. As far as patient satisfaction scores are concerned, that continues to be very good year-to-date. We're at 99% out of 100, and the system-wide goal that we use is 89.7. We didn't have, or we didn't receive any comments during the third quarter, but as I have in the past, if we do get them, I'll include them in on the report. In terms of community involvement, and Mike, feel free to chime in here wherever you'd like, because you're the one that does most of this. We continue to provide first responder education in the high schools. We also do CPR and AED classes in the community, and during the third quarter, we did a couple classes, CPR, AED classes with local churches. In terms of community events, during the third quarter, we participated in the 4th of July parade in Park Rapids and the Night to Unite event in Park Rapids. And in terms of collaboration with our other community partners, we have a real good working relationship with the hospital. Mike meets with them on a weekly basis. We also work with the local first responder groups and our other public safety partners. And during the third quarter, we did a fly-in with the St. Joseph's ER team. So we had their group come out to the airport, and we did a classroom session, and then they looked at the helicopter, and we practiced loading and unloading patients. So that was a good collaborative educational session. Is there anything I'm missing on that, Mike?
I don't think so. I had a couple of patient comments that
Oh.
we could share.
Sure. You want to come up here?
For sure. Good morning, everybody. Morning. So yeah, just a couple patient comments that we received just recently that, actually just yesterday, that I thought I would share with you. So the first one, I'll just read what they wrote here. People say life is fleeting, and we all know that we have moments in life as we age that we need others to help us out. My moment was last Friday. Christy, Terry, and Emily, 3 of our team members in Park Rapids. You were there to keep me awake and fighting. My family and I could never thank you enough for what you did for me. Thank you for being my guardian angels. The next one, words can't express my gratitude for your quick response, communicating with me, keeping my husband fighting. Without wonderful people like you on the front lines, my husband wouldn't be alive. So just a couple comments we received yesterday. Pretty cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Scott, did you have anything else?
I don't. I think, Mike, you should take some credit to the collaboration between Mike and the St. Joseph's Hospital staff. They recently were recognized at a conference not that long for the collaborative efforts, and numerous communities are reaching out to those folks as well to ask, how do they get along so well? And that is really a pride point to bring up as well, because that unfortunately doesn't happen all over the state, so I think you should be proud of that work in the community and the commitment to each other to provide the best care that we can.
I can't imagine how difficult it would be to work if you did not have a good working relationship with the hospital that you.
It's very true, and unfortunately, there are hospital systems and EMS systems that don't get along very well for some reason or another.
That's a shame. You're both in the same business of saving lives. It's just,
Most definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. That's all that we had in our report. Does anybody have any questions?
With that CPR training, would you do that through, like the adult community education through the schools, or any way that adults can get that maybe don't belong to a community group?
Sure. We offer to groups like churches and stuff like that. We don't work through like community education or anything like that right now, but any group or organization could contact us, and we'd come out and do a class for them teaching CPR and AED.
It's probably been 15, 20 years since I've had one. I wonder just how anything's changed since then.
Yeah, it has, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. I had CPR training when I was in high school, so that was a very long time ago. And I'm sure that I could use a refresher.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we could, we can have a class for just a small group of people, or we could work with the county to do a class for other county employees in addition to the commission. Whatever you want, we can.
Yeah, for sure.
We could make it happen.
Yeah, most definitely.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good thing to know. You never know.
When you need it.
And as a matter of fact, unfortunately, most of the time when a layperson does CPR, it's on somebody they know. So,
But yeah, we'd be more than happy to help you guys out with a class or whatever you guys would like, if you'd like that, or any other group or organization in the Park Rapids area.
Well, Jeff, has any county employees ever been involved in, that you know of?
I'm not aware that
Okay.
we've ever had a situation where we've sponsored a training for any employees.
Because, you know, that previous employer I had, that was part of their regular training program, was have employees go through a CPR course.
yeah, and I noticed you have AEDs in the building, so that's great. And those are designed, just for your information, those are designed to be used by anybody, even if you have no training at all. So don't hesitate to use it, is what I'm saying, if there's an emergency,
It
because.
prompts you exactly what to do, when to do it. how
Yes,
to do
sir.
it. Yep.
Yes, sir, it does. So it's intended to be used by somebody that's never used it.
And a lot of classes that I do, little trainings I do for like the churches and stuff like that, it's because they have AEDs in their churches and their members are concerned about using it, and it doesn't take very much time for them to become comfortable with that or even doing CPR, so, for sure.
Okay.
I'd be supportive of a little training or something. Be nice.
Even if it was on a department-based, kind of scenario. I know, when I worked, for CAS, every year we had a safety meeting, and this was part of it, a refresher for,
Sure.
CPR and AED use. That was, but we were part of a different system. I think it was called Safe Assure, and I'm not sure we have that here in Hubbard County.
I don't think so.
That was part of their package, because
Okay.
they had to pay for the training and whatnot, so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just contact Mike.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, very good. Anything else? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for all you do.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay. Hubbard County SWCD.
Yeah, my name's Jake Shaughnessy. I'm the Watershed Coordinator with the Hubbard SWCD. Just here to give a couple quick updates on the some of the One Watershed One plans, a couple items of note that might be of interest, and say the kind of the first one is that the Leech Lake River is undergoing a midpoint review and is coming up for a public hearing on that midpoint review and amendment. And so the Leech Lake 1W1P was one of the first outside of the pilot. So like the pilot, One Watershed One plans happened. The Leech Lake was one of the next 2 or 3 right after the pilot of the program. And so it's very, very old, and we've learned quite a bit since through the planning process, because most of the districts are, or most of, I think almost all the One Watershed One plans are done, and many of them have been in activity for 4 to 5 years now. And so the Leech Lake one, they're looking to do they have done a minor amendment to update it, because it's not very user-friendly. It was difficult for, especially for new staff coming on, to understand what's exactly going on in the Leech Lake plan. And assuming if staff's working in the field is struggling to interpret some of the wordings and tables and priorities and goals, that the public at large would also have quite a bit of difficulty. So they're amending that to kind of clarify a bunch of stuff, and along with some slight amendments to the priority areas. Nothing is becoming, that was already a priority is getting removed from being a priority. There was just some areas that had scored high on the initial scoring system from the first time that didn't get put in the priorities just because they fell out of different areas. But since they scored so high in all the categories they were planning on them, they have added those in. So there's a couple additional priority areas and priority resources, like notable ones, like Benedict scored really high in all the metrics, but just didn't fall within a watershed that had scored high enough. But since the resources itself has scored high, they've added that too, and there's a couple other systems like that. But yeah, the main intent of that was to kind of clarify a few things, and then to address some of the existing goals, because the way the goals were being tracked, was kind of new to the whole framework and being tracked with a big, or, I mean, that was a relatively small group, but being tracked in a relatively big area with a bunch of different project types. The way that the goals were written in the existing plan weren't exactly conducive to how projects are actually done. There's a couple items where it wanted you to track calculations that aren't typically done in the project. So a lot of times it would require you to hire a third-party engineer to do that calculation. That just kind of seemed like a waste of time, effort, and fun. So it's been rewritten to make sure that it's all stuff that we do these typical projects, that when you're engineering a project or designing it as a staff level, you're already producing these numbers, and it's going to Bowser and kind of what their whole goal is. And so there is some changes to some of the goals, but most of that is just to make them align with what is being tracked across the board in the other Bowser programs and the other watersheds. And then one other thing in there is that there was a kind of a term that is used in all the new watersheds where the desired future conditions, and which is in the Leech Lake plan. It's just kind of a future. It was like a long-term goal, and so that was switched up in there because kind of the intent of that is how we would like the resource to look, which would be the ideal candidate, but to kind of give leeway to the fact that the One Watershed One plan doesn't have enough funding to reach that kind of leans to more partners. And so there was a couple areas where, on like the implementation tables that weren't very specific, and we're putting items on the SWCD and districts that we didn't actually have jurisdiction in. There's some stuff talking about ordinances, and they kind of reconfigured that so that it would actually match up with the entities who oversee those programs. And so with that minor amendment, there will be a public hearing on November 17th over in Walker. So if that is of any interest, that's just going to be the person who had done the minor amendment, Mariah Roofer. She had done a variety of the other 1W1Ps, including the Crow Wing River. Should be kind of giving an overview of the updates, and then they'll be making a vote to adopt this new one. So
What time is that?
off the top of my head,
In the
I think it's 11 a.m., but I guess I don't have that written down. But I believe, yeah, it should be posted in the newspaper, so you should be able to find it, but I don't have that at the top of my head, but I believe it's 11 a.m., if I'm not mistaken.
Are you going to?
For Leech River one?
No, I would.
You would,
I
yeah,
would
you
go,
would,
yeah.
okay. So you're
And
gonna
I
go,
have to
okay.
be there for an ambulance meeting at 2. So
Okay, great.
I can just kill the day and Walker.
Yeah, if there's no other questions about that, I'll say I'll just be coming up in a little bit, and then we'll be, once that's all approved, we'll be getting that new plan sent out. So if it's being hosted anywhere, folks will have the new version of the plan. So I'm not sure if the county's hosting it anywhere or if you're just linking back to our website, but we'll make sure to get that shared out. And then I guess the other thing is within the Crow Wing watershed, there is just last week, the policy committee had met, and with the intent to add on the White Earth Nation onto the policy committee, because when the original MOA was created, there was language specifically put into there as White Earth had expressed interest, but did not have it, figured out how they were gonna join on, so they didn't wanna delay the group until they could figure the way they wanted to join. And so they had us put that language in to allow them to join on, and now that they're ready, they put some language together, so their legal counsel had put some stuff into the new MOA just to kind of keep their sovereignty, because a lot of the language is kind of canned language that is very common across most of the SWCD and local government documents, which says, we're required to do X, Y, and Z for the state, which the tribes are not, and so they have added a bit of language that kind of keeps their sovereignty, and so that they don't have to abide by the rules. They don't, again, gain any additional oversight that they aren't already required to do, and so it doesn't really change anything that the SWCD or the county that are involved have to do. It just carves out that language so that White Earth can join on without losing any of their rights. And so that's just looking to get an approval on that. We've got that coming up for the next meeting, so if there's any questions on that, and say the 17th, I'll be coming back to ask you guys if you want to approve it, but it's gonna come here today and talk to you guys and see if there's anything. So if there's any question or anything pops up, we can get those questions addressed or discussed before we go for approval.
So when I read through that, is there ever a time when you guys want to do something and then it's in conflict with them, and so then is it just null and void?
And so for the most part, the way that those really work, it's just a funding mechanism to get to each district, so they kind of can work on their own programs as long as they follow, they're more beholden to the grant agreement, and any of like the stuff they're beholden to the state won't really impact us, and say it's kind of on Bowser. They've got some staff there, their Bowser's legal counsel, and their tribal liaison all kind of work together, so kind of when it comes to like the state overseeing them, that's gonna be kind of on Bowser's and in the fiscal agent a bit more, but when it comes to like the individual districts trying to implement the projects, it's not really gonna change anything in how we work, so.
Okay, thank you.
Are their goals pretty well in harmony with the rest of the district?
Yep, and say they were already as part of the policy, or not the policy committee, the steering team during the planning process, and so they'd already been involved. They had some of their staff that had attended those meetings, and they're kind of most of their part of the watershed overlaps with Becker County over there, and they're part of the planning process, and so their goals and kind of intents are already in there, and they're aware of what project types that are fundable, and they're kind of in the room when we were divvying up the funds, and so anticipating for them joining on eventually. Becker had kind of got a pool of money put into theirs and into their pouch, plan to go to White Earth whenever they joined on, and they would have been able to access that. Now, just they'd have to essentially done a cooperative agreement with Becker to have accessed those funds until they joined on officially.
When the funds are made available to them, there's accountability for their use of the funds?
Yep, they'll have to follow everything written out in the grant agreement. It's just some of that additional state statute requirements is a bit different, but they'll have to follow the grant agreement to get the funds. It's all reimbursement basis, so if they don't follow the grant agreement or don't, meet all the requirements for a project, they won't be able to get reimbursed for it. So it's they have to follow the same thing, just they have the carve-outs or for some of those state laws that us as local government units are beholden to, that they may or may not be. And this was also reviewed by the Becker County attorney and the Crow Wing County attorney, along with Bowser's legal counsel. And they, kind of the general consensus from talking with them is that it didn't really change the way the individual districts worked with the plan, just how White Earth worked with the plan.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Any other more information, Jake?
No, I think
No?
that's, I'm guessing the only really other watershed we got is the Mississippi River, and that one's just kind of in the middle of its implementation, moving into a new phase, and so I guess not a whole lot to report there. The last phase got spent down to, I think they're under 10,000 now, and and a couple little odds and ends are gonna spend it now, but it got spent down quite well, and they're moving on to the next one, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. Solid waste.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I just have one agenda item here this morning, and it's to review and approve waste hauling contract with Beltrami County. So Beltrami County has bid and let the hauling contracts for the last several contracts for 3 counties, Hubbard, Polk, and Beltrami County. And they had a renewed contract for 2026 through 2028. We have partnered together in this contract since 2019 to share hauling services, which helps us maximize backhauls and route savings for hauling MSW and recycling other related items to the Polk County facilities. Beltrami County owns all of the waste trailers for our group and charges a maintenance fee, which is currently $31 per stop to cover trailer maintenance and capital replacement costs. And the contract for this next go-around was awarded to Duquesne Trucking out of Bemidji. I think the last 2 contracts have been Duquesne Trucking. The rates would be $284 per mile in 2026, $286 per mile in 2027, and $288 per mile in 2028 for hauling. So just looking for a recommendation to approve our partnership with Beltrami County and Polk County to utilize their hauling contract for the next 3-year term.
This Ted, I'll make a motion to approve.
Ted moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Shar seconds. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Right, motion carried.
All right, and just a couple quick updates. Just wanted to highlight our organics grant, some things that have been happening with that. We're hoping still for first quarter rollout for our commercial organics program. And again, that's going to be a partnership with Beltrami County to focus just on commercial businesses and larger organizations. We'll also be rolling out a new residential organics program. And this is part of a grant that Polk County received where they're adding equipment, some robots, some different technology into the Foston facility, which will allow us to commingle residential organics, and then it gets separated out at the facility and brought to their compost site. So that's supposed to be up and operational here in the next month. So we're anticipating some big changes coming to our residential program here, probably in the first quarter of next year as well. And then kind of in that same vein, we've been still using our horizontal grinder with our that we received as part of that organics grant. We've pretty much ground all our brush in Park Rapids. Last week, we brought the grinder up to our north transfer station and got our brush pile all ground up at our north transfer station. And we also worked with Cass County last week and went over to their site over by Hackensack and were able to grind up their brush as well. So that's part of the 9-county partnership that we were able to do that. And that went, both sites went really well, and I was really happy with how, I guess, quickly we're able to move through them 2 sites. And now kind of our plan for the machine there is to come back, and we're gonna be starting working on shingles here for the rest of the fall and winter on our site in Park Rapids, so.
Has there been a lot of interest from the public in the wood chips?
I think it's growing. I think it'll continue to take time. But yeah, I think that, it's just slowly gaining more and more interest, and I anticipate this spring will be, a lot more interest, so.
So did you grind that whole big pile, or did you just grind the smaller pieces in it?
Like in Park Rapids here on our site? Yep, everything besides the stumps. So we've been picking through the stumps just
So
because they're
even
hard on
the
the
big.
equipment. Yeah, I mean, there's,
Okay.
if the tree is too big, I mean, it can handle probably a 2-foot diameter tree, no problem.
Okay,
But
wow.
if it gets too terribly big, and we don't have that, big trees like you see in some cities, too terribly many around here, but,
So are you not burning it all anymore, that pile?
no, we haven't, in Park Rapids, we haven't burned probably for just about a year and a half.
Well, the neighborhood is happy.
And we'll have to manage the stumps, so over the winter, we'll probably, be burning the stumps, but. And other than that, just another update, we've been starting to kind of regroup and re-meet with our 9-county group, discussing our construction and demolition hub and spoke project. We've had a couple applications that we've had to get in, kind of just preparing for this next legislative session and how we're gonna kind of go about that, so. And then next couple board meetings, they'll have some annual license renewals, contract renewals. We have proposals out now for our scrap metal, electronics, and tire recycling contracts, so we'll be getting them in here in the next couple weeks, so.
As far as your grinding shingles, are you going to mix that with other material to try to make improved bases for roads, driveways, buildings, or what have you?
Yeah, I think we're gonna, it can be used, just the shingles can be used, and kind of, it works really good with dust control. But I think, that's something we're gonna test out and kind of see what works the best. So we'll be blending some with our crushed concrete, seeing how it works, just laying it down, just shingles. And then we also want to try some different applications with possibly driveway sealer type stuff going over the top of the ground shingles and see how that sets up too.
Like a chip seal kind of idea?
Yep.
Are you working at all with the highway department to try to do some test areas or anything like that?
Just initial conversations. I mean, we really want to see what the pile looks like before we get into that too far.
Could the public participate in, so to say, a trial of the product?
Well, we'll be selling the ground shingles just like we do the crushed concrete on our site, so.
Okay, well, but would you be willing to sell crushed concrete with shingles mixed in them?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Just thinking, there's lots of ideas, there's lots of possibilities. you can
Yeah, I
use it
think
for.
it'll-
It's just finding that ideal fit.
Yep.
You know, because it's a shame to let that just, so to say, go to waste or have to be gotten rid of later in a different fashion. So if we can certainly reuse it, that's the best. So, any other questions for Josh?
I just have, oh, go ahead, Tom.
I was wondering about the nails in the roofs. Do they separate those, or they get ground in?
Yep, so our grinder has 2 magnets on it right now. So there's a cross belt magnet and a head pulley magnet, and that does a really good job pulling out the nails. Even like we were with our wood waste, grinding up pallets and things like that, it's just amazing the staples and nails that come out of it, so. Some of this, one of the other grants that we've applied for recently would be to add a screener, a trommel screen into this, and that would help to kind of just further take out, another round of taking out nails, and also like with shingles, helping separate out if there's any plastic tabs or light material kind of out of the shingles too, so. If we're successful in that grant, I think the end quality of the product would be even better, so.
I had company over the weekend from the cities, and we ran to solid waste. I didn't even think about it. We're driving in, and she's like, what in the world is this? She was just blown away by all that we had and what we're doing here.
Mhm. All right.
Okay,
Well, thank you.
Okay, Human Services.
Mike is here, and he texted me this morning and he said, I don't have much background on this. And I said, this is actually a renewal of a contract that could have been on the consent agenda, and I think that we're all aware of that. So I think we'll be looking for an approval on this based on that. But Mike is here, so if you have any questions, or Mike, did you have anything else to say?
No, good morning. Just an update. In the next couple of weeks, kind of like Josh is getting to, I will have updates to our contract renewals, our purchase of service agreement, purchase of service contracts. I have about 10 or 15 piled up, so we should have those to you guys in the next few meetings. Kind of, we changed our process last year. Didn't go too well. Still some hiccups in the road on that, but still receiving some that are pen and paper and trying to get them into electronic format. It's been kind of an issue, but one of them we'll just rewrite ourselves and send it back and forth with that company, try to get them modernized. But that's really what we have in Human Services at this time.
And concerning this, I'm on the MAHUBE board. This is just a pass-through grant.
Pass through, yes.
Yeah, and we already discussed this at the MAHUBE board. I'll move to approve.
Okay, Sharon moves.
Is Ted, I'll second.
Ted seconds. Any more discussion?
And this is that money we see almost every month coming through on the Auditors report to MAHUBE.
Might be. There's so much going on in MAHUBE and their budget. It's so
Does it come
massive that,
Do we get the funds monthly, or do they come in?
I thought this was paid once.
It's once or twice, I think, it's not monthly.
Okay.
So I was, when I was first reading it, concerned about the amount of money that actually was for support services compared to the rest of it, but then it dawned on me that it's staff services to the clientele, I'm sure, which that makes sense, and it takes staffing to provide the services.
Correct.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried.
Other questions for Mike? Okay.
You getting caught up, getting up to speed?
Oh,
or-
I don't know about that. Yeah, we're getting caught up. We did, working on our second transition of staff, be next, just after about a week and a half from now. It's going okay. Certainly some training differences between children's services and adult services. But everything seems to be going as smooth as it can be as far as the transition period goes. Getting caught up, learning where the meetings are or should be, and trying to figure out which ones I can't go because they overlap with ones that I was already doing, so.
Yeah. Anybody have questions for Mike? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First one is kind of administrative. Annually, when we consider our fee schedule for the following year, we have to have a public hearing before approval. And we are asking to set the date for that public hearing on December 2nd at 9:30 a.m.
So, we were gonna have a discussion with Eric, but we could,
We can bring him in 2 weeks and have that conversation before he would bring this.
okay, yeah. I actually stopped down in their office yesterday and actually got further information. So, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Is there a motion to set the hearing?
Just Ted, go ahead.
I'll move.
Tom moves,
It's Ted, I'll second.
Ted seconds. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
The second item is the ECPN application for Heritage Living Center. The amount that we qualify for has increased pretty significantly than what it has been the past couple of years. Our current rate is around $16 per day is what the county has agreed to, which means that we're paying about $6,500 a month. The recommendation from the Heritage Living Center Board is to approve the full rate that's allowed by the state program. It would be an extra $100,000 from the county to support that, but it returns $150,000 in matching funds coming from the program, which helps to reduce the county's obligation relative to the debt service for that facility and support the operations. I will let, Dave, were you at the meeting? You were at the meeting. Yep, I'll let Commissioner Dillahunt address the recommendation from the Living Center Board.
Yeah, no matter, well, it's an extra $100,000 in the budget based on our reimbursement rates coming up for '26. It's almost 100% certain that the county will be paying some of the debt service for the nursing home at the end of the year. So why not take the extra $50,000, because we're gonna be paying anyhow. So putting $100,000 out now over the year will give us $150,000 back, which will help us pay less than if we didn't do this.
So do you want to explain to the board about private pay?
Yeah, the only concern that's really a worry about doing this is, it increases the private pay by $40.24 a day, which can be a significant amount. But it was like 3 or 4 months ago, our rate was very close, so it's not gonna have a significant impact on private pay. They might have had one or 2 months billing where their rates dropped a little bit, but we're gonna basically be back where we were 3 to 6 months ago if we adopt this. And we have very few on private pay now.
This is from those that are on Medicaid?
Yeah, most of our are on Medicaid.
Okay.
So whatever the EPCN rate is, that's what the private pay adjustment goes.
What would a private pay be per night?
I think part of the reason why, because it used to be about 50-50 when I first started on the board. But I think with all the home health care and different things that are available now, you're starting to see probably private pay do other options to stay in their home as long as they can. That's probably a good part of it. So, yeah, the Medicaid part is becoming a more significant part of our nursing home residents.
Do you have the daily rate that we were looking at, the comparison for the last few years?
No.
This does bring us up to kind of what the average had been prior to that. And I don't even want to guess without having it in front of me, but I can get that information. We can get that from the meeting materials.
As long as I've been on the board, we've never gone to the full rate.
We haven't, but
Strictly because of private pay, but now because of the change, and then with the county having to have part of the financial burden, it just makes sense.
Commissioner Kruger's question was just what is that daily
Yeah.
rate for a private pay for the base level of services, and we can provide that. I'm pretty sure I have it on my desk. I'm not gonna say it out loud because I would be guessing. It's a big number.
It's
Yeah.
like twice as much as,
And, yeah. Well, this is for some people who are maybe just almost qualified for Medicaid, but not quite, and then they gotta pay that full amount. That's a problem we sometimes get into.
yeah.
Which
So I
is
wanna-
why we haven't gone to the full amount before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's expensive now. The average monthly amount for private pay in a nursing home, I think, is somewhere between 14 and 18 grand now. It's not cheap.
So do we need a motion?
We do.
Also move.
Char moves, is there a second?
Is Ted all second?
Ted seconds, any more discussion?
So I think the goal is we just assume that we'd be using fund balance, because that's what we would,
Yeah, for the 100,000.
yep. So we wouldn't have to find any offset for it.
Yeah. Okay, motion and second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
This next item is something that has been being passed around and discussed in a lot of different circles. And Sherburne County is asking Minnesota counties to consider opting in a resolution asking the state to end the moratorium on nuclear power generation. I think Commissioner Christensen talked about this a meeting or two ago. Not specifically this resolution, but that conversation has been happening. So I'm presenting what we got from Sherburne County, a little bit of information they provided, and then a formatted resolution that would be approved by Hubbard County to be sent to Sherburne County for them to advance.
So ironically, I'm on a new NACO subcommittee that has to do with looking at the Great Lakes Alliance, which looks at the water usage for the Great Lakes. I'll report on that a little bit later, but this group mirrors what the group I'm on from NACO is saying, that the only way to meet our energy goals is nuclear. And so, I mean, we can do what we want with it, but currently Minnesota doesn't have a plan with how to meet our goals.
Well, their plan is just renewables.
I know, but
You can't cover the demand for the energy with the renewables and what we have in place now for power generation.
No, you
Especially
can't.
with the restrictions that are being placed upon the energy producing entities. So.
Yeah, in my report, I'll actually, there's a slide, it's really interesting, but anyway, we can stick with this for right now.
Okay,
Back in the policy committee meeting, or with AMC back in September, this was brought up, and at the time, there was only 2 counties that were actually a part of this alliance, Itasca and Sherburne, and it'd be nice to get more counties involved. I tried to make it one of the priorities, but it didn't pass because they figured it was going to almost guaranteed to make a change, but you don't have a guarantee, so you've got to keep pushing it until it's actually, you cross the finish line and you have it. So I think it'd be a good idea to have Hubbard County added to this list right here.
I agree with you guys. You know, the state's just kind of been slow on this, and probably 3 or 4 years ago was not interested, but now I think attitudes about nuclear are changing, that maybe just a little nudge here will take care of it.
That's what I tried to tell them at the
Yep.
policy committee meeting back in September, but if we get our names on here, maybe that'll help. And I know some other commissioners were going to go that route. Their counties is try to, get their counties to join this membership, alliance member.
Okay, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to.
I'll moves. Dave seconds. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Wait,
Oh.
I have one question. So are
Go
we
ahead.
gonna follow exactly what's been presented?
Didn't see anything wrong with it. Didn't
What do
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see, I mean, obviously,
With the resolution.
Yeah, with the
site
resolution.
location, I don't think they would ever locate here too, because you're not near a main corridor for electric distribution, so.
The only remaining question is whether we have any county-specific goals in this highlighted area that's not included in here. And based on Commissioner Delahunt's last comment, I don't know that we have an individual horse in the game. I know that Sherburne is driving this because I think they're actually making a pitch to locate a facility in their county to offset the power generation that they have in their county that's going to be offline soon. So I think the question is, before you vote, is essentially we would take out this yellow whereas and turn it in the way that it is without that, unless you have anything specific to insert there. And I don't have a recommendation.
Just the only objective is in an effort to provide affordable energy to the population. That's the only thing I can see that wouldn't be over the top or anything. But,
Sufficient and affordable
Yep.
power for the state of Minnesota.
yep.
Yep. Okay.
So would the motion be amended to include a comment like that in that whereas?
Sure.
Good. Second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second with an amended language. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried.
And then, Mr. Chair, do you want to do committee reports and meetings tonight before we do closed session, or do you want to do
Yes,
closed session?
let's do
now?
committee meetings first. Who would like to start?
Well, I can start.
Anything for the end of October?
At the Mojave meeting, their funding hasn't been tied into the shutdown because they've gotten funding previously, or else the Head Start is on, different Head Starts are on a different calendar. And the Head Start at Mojave, the calendar, the year end doesn't end when the shutdown is. They've been working with food shelves to try get adequate food for people that are struggling. Then and then the other thing we talked about was Liz presented several options for the building, that furniture building that they bought. And so we're just exploring what we should use the space for.
I didn't know they purchased it.
Oh, yeah. did you-
Across the street, they
Yeah,
bought that?
across the street.
Okay.
Wow, they got all 3 of those there.
Yeah, and
Did it
so-
want a grocery store too?
There you go. There was a lot of discussion, no decisions were
Okay.
made, so I'm not gonna pass on.
It would make a
ideas.
wonderful, like a daycare space and things like
Yeah,
that,
that came up as part of
The
it.
possibilities of that large of a building is just
Yep.
amazing.
And then the other meeting I had was for the Alliance for the Great Lakes, and I'm just gonna throw out some data because it was interesting. A single data center can use more than 365 million gallons of water a year, which is equivalent to what 12,000 Americans use in that amount of time. And so what they're looking at is, because all the states that have water that touches the Great Lakes have tax incentives for data centers to come. But they haven't looked at how that's gonna affect the Great Lakes, and so far, if the data centers are receiving water through the municipalities, it's not tracked at how much they use. And so the real concern is that, the water's gonna be depleted at such a rapid rate that it's gonna greatly affect, who the Great Lakes is currently serving.
Yeah, I had heard I don't remember if it was over the weekend or whatever, that the newer data centers aren't the water hogs of prior to this,
Well,
point in time.
It touches on that in here a little bit, and what they've done so far is they're not building them out as planned
Okay.
because there isn't adequate water. And then in this study, it also talked about how in competition for the Great Lakes is municipalities that provide for households, data centers, agriculture, which we already know about, irrigation. And then the last thing is mining. And so I didn't realize that the mining also uses a vast amount of water. And so the mining actually starts up again in Minnesota, although in this report, it says there's actually, so Trump reversed the Biden era for mining in Minnesota, but legislatively at the state level, there's legislation to be looked at that's gonna ban it permanently. Where that goes, we'll see. But anyway, this is really just a fascinating area that I've never thought about, and how it's affecting every area in the United States because of the data centers that are coming up. And then the last thing, I went to a Prime West, they have a yearly conference for Health and Human Services, and then they have speakers. One of the speakers I attended was on Habitat for Humanity and homelessness. Then there was one on Alzheimer's. Habitat for Humanity, building the same house, their costs have almost gone up by 50%. And so a person now that qualifies for Habitat for Humanity house, the house is over $300,000. And then the other thing that was really interesting is the man that I had reported on before from the U of M, sorry I didn't bring his name, he talked further on rural living and housing. And he, at this conference, he really focused in on how we have the elderly living at home in houses that are too big. They're not able to keep up the houses financially, they can't afford it, and there aren't options to move other than nursing home or assisted living. So he really suggested that communities focus on the patio, smaller homes on a slab, so the older people have places to move, because then that frees up their homes for the 30 to 50-year-olds that are moving in, and that would greatly help the housing shortage.
I know there's a lot of people in that category that are older, that their rents are getting escalated to the point that they can't afford to stay in that rental home and buy all the groceries and everything that is needed. We severely lack just simple living spaces like that, whether it be just a simple slab with multiple apartments, 1, 2 bedroom things that are handicapped accessible, that they don't need garages or anything like that, because typically a lot of them don't drive. But yeah, there is a shortage of it, but how do you build something like that at an economical rate?
I still say an assisted living facility on the water somewhere would be highly popular around here.
Oh, yes.
Ottertail has that.
Because we don't really have that anywhere except park model type things here and there. Because a lot of people don't want to leave the lake.
Yeah.
And if you had that, they they might leave their homes on the lake and.
I think it would fill up fast.
He talked about by the time an elderly person moves out, usually it's a crisis situation, so they have to be out of their home within 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And if they were gonna make a good decision, it actually takes 18 months by the time. And then he said, a lot of the houses are in disarray by the time they leave. And so they either have to be torn down or there's so much work that needs to be done. The other thing he emphasized is how we really wanna keep the elderly in our communities because they provide so many jobs for the people living in the community at a younger age. Plus, they're bringing in a lot of dollars for economic, or how the dollar, you know, goes through the community. So it was really interesting. And it was well attended. So that's what I have.
Okay. David, did you wanna go next?
Didn't really prepare much for this
That's
for the
fine.
last week, but Heritage, and give you a report on Heritage. The overall star is still at 4. Same with the health inspection, quality measures at 3, and nursing home report card is at 2. Our latest resident survey turned out very well too. We were at state average or above on pretty much every category, so that turned out well. 5 hires, 3 terminations, open FTEs, we have 4, and just 1 agency contract. Our 2 nurses are fully staffed from overseas. We finally got that, and they're working. So that's good. Census-wise, Heritage Manor was at 23.48 for September, the cottages at 15.72, and the nursing home was at 42.8. EBITDA for the Manor was a positive 54,299, the cottages positive 2,125, and the nursing home was a positive 35,072 for a combined total of 91,498. So a pretty decent month. And then regarding current census as of October 28th, Heritage Manor is at 24 out of 26, 15 out of 18 at the cottages. 1 has double occupancy, so it's really 16 out of 18, and the census is 43 in the living center. And then regarding Heartland Lakes Development Commission, I didn't get a chance to partake in gun bingo, but my understanding is it went well. The amount of participants was down some, but the overall money we probably made was about the same because those that were there spent more on more bingo cards and more on raffles. So should be
Yes,
another
we did.
successful year. Yeah.
Did you win a gun?
You won 2? You probably wouldn't mind that. Got it? Good. So it sounds like everybody had fun anyhow.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was well attended. I know there was extra tickets still available, but
I think we probably still might consider a date change because it just runs up against duck and pheasant hunting.
well, and
There's a lot of
I
people
heard
out
there were
of town.
2 other gun bingos in this sort of broader area that people had kind of decided to
Yeah.
go to as well. So
Right.
it's hard to get away from a conflict,
Yeah.
and, but it was good. I appreciated it.
We appreciate you going.
Yes.
Yeah. I bought plenty of raffle tickets on the ties, but I didn't win any of those, but.
I think that's all I got. If I think of anything else, I'll mention it at the end. But
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot. I did the HIP Zoom meeting. There's nothing significant there that comes to my mind that bears mentioning. But then I did the youth and cell phone and the legal issues. And the session with John, our county attorney,
Yeah.
was there. Sheriff Sergeant was there, and then someone from Social Services was there as well. It is interesting when you think about the legal issues that adults and children have to, the things that can get complicated and in play and how to charge someone for a certain thing, it's gotta be a tough job to decide how to pursue things like that. But then the disappointing part are the penalties. The sentencing guidelines, just, they're not enough, you know, and what do you do with someone who has done something like that? And how do you punish them enough to make them truly regret it and perhaps reform and change and have society feel comfortable with that individual again? It has to be very difficult.
So I actually missed both of those sessions, and Angie said there was 12 adults at each session, which was really great.
Yeah.
Did they go into talking about how part of the conflict is the child has a cell phone, one parent says take it, the other parent says no,
Yeah.
and so they can't do anything.
It's about being a team as parents and run on the same line. Don't, oh yeah, you can have it tonight, and oh no, you don't, you can do whatever you want, you know, or you can't have it. And it's things like, but setting rules and sticking to the rules was one of the key things that was talked about. And don't waver. Just because Jimmy says that Bobby has one and he gets to look at it all the time, you should not cave into that. It's reverse pressure, you know, and it's not helpful. And it does start at home. It really does. But there are so many bad influences out there. They gave a piece of paper with just a huge list of websites that they're basically full of predators, you know, and I was just like, holy cow, I'd never dreamed there would be this kind of thing out there. And that was just a small sampling. Angie said, I can't put it all on one sheet if I tried to do everything I've ever heard of. So it is disappointing that there are people like that in the world.
Plus with even with the small children games at age 3 and 4,
Yeah.
they're grooming them to succumb to predators by the different levels and the prizes that they're offering.
Yeah.
It's really sick.
There's too much electronic involvement
Yeah.
in our kids' lives. You need to limit it and do good, healthy family activities. And like it all starts at home. That's where the majority of it, you can change it at home. You can't change what happens when they go to a public setting, but you can change how things operate at home. And just, I was gonna go to the one in LaPorte on November 6th. It's the first one of the two.
Oh, is it? Okay, I didn't know
So
that.
I'm
Okay.
gonna try to make it to that one,
Okay, good.
if I can. And then, for Tom and Dave's benefit, just so you know, AMC is being changed, the policy conference is being changed to Bemidji next year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it'll be at the Sanford Center.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Won't have to go to Alexandria.
Wonderful.
Well, that must have been announced at the end, because I left a little
Yeah, it
early.
was, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, so.
Yeah, we'll all be there.
Yeah, you can ride your bicycle.
Well, I don't know about that.
So that was a welcome change, and we'll see how it goes. And then other than that,
Yeah, usually, I think they would move other stuff around the state. It's just, there's not enough motel rooms in many
Yeah.
places.
I figured it would be St. Cloud would be where they'd move, but how do you book something that large a year out?
Yeah.
You know, in an area like St. Cloud, which is so popular for those
They
types
say
of
even
things.
St. Cloud though, you know, right down near the convention center, doesn't have enough motel rooms right close by.
Okay.
There is throughout St. Cloud,
Yeah.
but then you'd constantly be driving every day.
Yeah, sure.
Where up here now at the Sanford Center, there's what, 2 large motels there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
3
and then
actually, I
And
think.
there's one just down the,
Yeah.
you know, half a block or two away. So yeah, that, we'll see how that goes, so. And,
Bring my bike to ride back and forth to those hotels.
and then I attended the biennial conference of the Mississippi Headwaters Board, but I will leave that to Ted to report on that. That's all I have.
Well, I missed 3 meetings last week because of eye surgery, so I don't have really much to report on. On Thursday with the Kitchigami Regional Library, we have our labor negotiations. We got all day scheduled for it. Hopefully, by the end of the day, we'll have an agreement reached, but, you know, that's all I got.
Okay. Ted?
Alrighty, I just had 2 meetings, the North Country Community Health Board. We met in Bemidji, talked about the family home visits that they do, and got some of the numbers in that, and talked about some of the success stories. Of course, there was some concern about the SNAP and WIC programs, and how that was all gonna shake out. Of course, we didn't have really any alternatives or whatever. They talked a little bit about Governor Walz putting $4 million towards it, but there wasn't really any details as to what was gonna happen with that. Let's see, we have the CHS administrative agreement that we went over and approved. The CHS administrator contract, there again, we went over and approved. Our joint powers agreement, reviewed that and approved it, reviewed the bylaws. And there wasn't much change there at all. We talked about the last time we had changed it, it was just a couple of years ago, and I can't remember, it was a minor tweak that we did to it back then. But we reviewed it real quick and didn't see any need for any updating there. Over the medical consultant contract for 2026 and approved that. It goes through Sanford now. It used to be a contract between us and the doctor, but now it's between, Sanford's in there now too. So, but it's minor stuff kind of. But anyhow, that got approved. And let's see, we looked over our contact information and everything. Of course, here in Hubbard County, Brian Opus not being on the board anymore, we'll have to fill his position hopefully. But our next meeting isn't until January 28th, so we've got a few months there. And then the North Country Community, or the Mississippi Headwaters Board, we did have a short meeting before the biennial conference. Did the usual stuff, consent agenda stuff, looking over the budget and stuff like that. Letter of support to Klobuchar and Smith for the Bowman Lake Lodge. Bowman Lake Lodges, and this is part of the biennial conference too. They're on Lake Winnie, and they've got they're trading some land with the Forest Service. The land that they're trading, that I believe they have, has got like old growth trees. It's one of those, like they were talking about, kind of like the Lost 40 where they didn't do any logging. So it's kind of a unique area. And then they're gonna get another, it's a smaller section, a smaller acreage wise, but it is on another lake that's north of Winnie, and it kind of connects with their grounds already, so it'll expand. They can put a marina over there and stuff like that. So this has been years in the making, and it looks like it's going to be wrapping up here hopefully soon.
Didn't they start in like 2014 or something like that? So
You know,
that's the speed of state government.
yeah.
And feds.
I always make that comment that government takes time, and some of this stuff, you know, like the bike trail from my Taskins, you know, it seems like it takes decades, but we did have one zoning variance request. And this one I had questions about because it came from the Ten Lakes Township in Beltrami County, and they approved it, but then it didn't go through the Beltrami County. But I guess because what I was told was that because Ten Lake Township has zoning and also has stricter restrictions than the Beltrami County does, that the Beltrami County just defers to them. So then it came to us.
Is that where is that the county where or the township where Turtle Lake is?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And then, yeah, the county, yeah, it'd be a different township, but it's the same
Yeah.
county, yeah. And then the variance request, so there again, a non-conforming legal lot. It's kind of strange because the house next door, they use the same driveway, so that impervious surface gets counted on this property, and basically, we okayed it. There wasn't any changes that we needed. We didn't put any conditions on or anything like that. Beltrami County, along with the Mississippi Headwaters Board Comprehensive Plan, does not require a second septic site, but I did ask if there would be one if the first one failed, and there would be a spot. So even though it's not labeled as an alternate site, there is one available. And then we did the biennial conference, was well attended, I think. We had representatives there from Amy Klobuchar, Pete Stauber, and Tina Smith's offices. Amy Klobuchar did send a video recording and stuff like that. Pete Stauber's representatives stepped up there and I think, said some nice things and everything. We talked about the Mississippi Headwaters Habitat Corridor project, the Minnesota Traditions Campaign, the Mississippi River Recreational Signage and Economic Development Project. And of course, I think I've mentioned before about the signage is where they have like a public access, and they'll kind of give you an idea where the next access is and how long it is and how long it should take you to paddle down there and stuff like that. So that's been well received, and I guess I would kind of like that if I was on the river, you know, going somewhere, have an idea of how long it's going to take me to get there. And then, of course, we did, like I say, talked about the Bowman Lodge stuff. And then we had a wildlife photographer there. He had some technical issues, so some of his videos didn't play at all. Some really nice pictures of not only wildlife, but also the outer space and stuff. And then Sarah Stroman, the Commissioner of the Department of Natural Resources, had our closing remarks. And we kind of ran long, but it was a good meeting, or a good conference, and it's only every other year. But that's all that I have.
Yeah, I went on to that gentleman's website and looked at many of his photos that he had. That's quite impressive.
Yeah.
And he sells prints, of course, but, you know. Okay, if that's that, then I need a motion to close the open session and open the closed session.
So moved.
Ted moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sure, seconds. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.